and you say, hey, it's 9 o'clock. Why don't we go to my house? We could baptize you right now, just like they did in the book of Acts. They baptized them immediately. I want to challenge you. Well, Isaiah, I know some of you in the chat are saying, I'm not a pastor. You don't have to be a pastor. Those people in the Bible that weren't leaders that were baptizing, you don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to graduate seminary. You don't have to have a Bible college degree. You can baptize your friends and family in your bathtub. So get your bathtubs ready, get prepared.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, brothers, sisters, friends, enemies, and frenemies. I included that clip from Isaiah Saldivar because that is the typical hyper-charismatic opinion of anyone who has actually gone to an accredited Bible college and gotten an accredited degree. This topic of false diplomas and false accreditation first came up with me when Marcus Rogers had announced that he was opening up a Bible college at Firehouse Church. And I did a little research and came back to find out that the alleged Bible college, which I called False Prophet University, was accredited by a non-accredited agency, Trans World Accrediting, which is essentially a front for an NAR diploma mill. But with permission of Sister Dawn Hill, I wanted to share her interview with Richard Moore, who's got extensive, highly credible credentials, and their conversation about Mr. Alexander Pagani's two doctorate degrees. With her permission, let's just tune in to her interview, and I'll explain what I'm really focusing on when we come to that subject. Okay? Check it out.
Because there's far fewer schools. I think there's maybe 30 now in the United States, vet schools. It's very competitive. It's far more competitive than human medicine is. We always teased and said that real doctors treat more than one species.
So what, Dawn, I'm sorry, because I'm going to include in the description of this video a link to both of her videos about these seminary degrees that these charismatics are coming up with. But Dawn has a doctorate degree in veterinary medicine, as well as, I'll let her tell it.
But so I say that not to brag, but just to kind of give an idea, because I didn't get in the first time in vet school either. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I had a bunch of training and everything as far as experience, but I did not get in my first time because it was competitive. And then the second time I got into the school of my choice, and then I got into an out-of-state school. I got into Auburn, which is even harder to get into because they only take 10 people a year at the time for the out-of-state. So the pool is more competitive. But so you have that. And so I got my doctorate in 2006. And then I was still part of the local church I was part of. And then I got my doctorate in Bible college.
Now, again, what she was talking about at first, the first doctorate she got was in veterinary medicine. Now we're going into the doctorate degree at the church.
In 2013. And this was just, I didn't show you this, but this was the paper that I wrote in order to get it. It's titled The Legacy of Smith Wigglesworth, a retrospective look of his ministry and walk with God.
Is it okay if I snicker at that?
You can, because sad to say, he was
Smith
one of my
Wigglesworth
heroes.
have a legacy.
And what is interesting now, Richard, looking at this.
Again, Dawn has come out of an NAR movement and was formerly a prophet, and she has a YouTube channel. I think her YouTube channel is Dawn Hill. She's got a Facebook page called The Lovesick Scribe, also a podcast called The Lovesick Scribe. And check her out. She's repented.
And it's really sad because, and my point in saying all that is, I know how much work went into that. And then I look and I think, oh, well, there was a lot of work that went into this, but really there wasn't. And even to write 80, I think it was like it was, how long was this paper? It had to be up to a 67-page paper that I wrote for this. And the bibliography is, it's biased. Like the
It's all
bibliography.
God's generals
Yes,
quotes,
and
right?
it's people that are using just anecdotal stories that can't be
Yeah.
proven, and
Right.
they're recycling all of these. So it wasn't even based in truth. And so my point in saying that to those listening is that um, there is a huge difference between someone that's getting a legitimate doctorate, whether it's in professional medicine or it's theology or whatever
Yeah.
it is, that there's a lot of time invested. There's a lot of legitimate training that goes into that. And then when
Yeah.
you're in this movement, and I think I've made this pretty clear before. I mean, I was entrenched in this movement for 18 years. And so, you know, I focused, which I have just to make it lighthearted, I have my Trust Me, I'm a Doctor shirt on today just for this episode. But
Dr. Pepper is
it
lovely
is.
stuff.
And I used to laugh and think, oh, I have 2 doctorates now. And this is not a legitimate doctorate that I got, because this is not a dissertation that I did. This is a long-term research paper that's biased on these books that I had that were biased towards Wigglesworth, who, sad to say, was one of my former heroes. And now I cringe at saying that. But this is what the level of deception will do to you, is that, and that's why it frustrates me when I see stuff like this with Pagani and other people, is that I hear them make comments about seminaries, saying, oh, they're cemeteries, and all these people, they have all their heads full of information and knowledge, but they don't have the Holy Spirit, and going on and on. But yet they want to take these titles so that they can so that they can have credibility, and that they can look like that they are more esteemed. And I just find that to be hypocritical.
So I was trying to think of a term to use better than this, but I don't think I can find anything. They like to poo-poo on our educational system, but then they turn around and claim that they've received a Doctor of Divinity, or now Pagani has received a second. So we're bringing up Pagani because this was what alerted me to the whole scenario and Alexander Pagani. So I guess we haven't really quite said what happened, have we?
No. So I'm going to play a reel.
God bless you, sir.
Okay.
All right.
And I want to read this real quick from the caption, and this is from the research that you did, and you did a great job in doing the research. So in the caption on the Instagram reel that you see on Alexander Pagani's social media, he has this attached to the reel. It says, by God's grace, I've been in ministry since 1995, saved in 1992, been all over the world teaching deliverance, completed 5 years of biblical seminary, appeared on every Christian television network, prophesied to kings in Africa, ministered deliverance to celebrities, birthed a multitude of churches, ordained many in the fivefold, held mass deliverance at Princeton University, currently oversee 14 churches, wrote 2 best-selling books. The famous Spiritual Warfare Bible is being revised with revelations from both my books, been featured in 2 Christian motion pictures, etc. Online ministry is the least of what I do. Why am I saying all this? Because, of course, I'm going to say yes when offered my first real accredited honorary doctorate in theology. To God be the glory. Thank you, Next Dimension University. And I just want to note this too. This was on September 9th of this year of 2023. Pagani was given an honorary doctorate from this university in Ontario, California. And you've just seen the clip of what this entailed. He and his wife both apparently received honorary doctorates. You had noted in the comments on this reel that he was called an apostle 15 times in the comments, which I'm not surprised by that.
And not just that, but the Dr. Apostle. He was also named Dr. Apostle. So I want to point that out later as we go.
And he is also called a prophet one time. I know Isaiah Saldivar has noted him as being a true apostle. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about this. I noticed in one of the posts under this particular university that they offer private ceremonies at the discretion of the honoree, as well as public ceremonies to provide a quote, dignified gift to someone you truly honor. And I thought that was a really interesting way to word that, whether it was your pastor or it was just really bizarre, some of the things that they said.
The language is very peculiar. And if you go to like Next Dimension University's website, the language, even in their academic program, they do have, just to give them some credit, to give them benefit of the doubt, they do have an academic program for doctoral degrees. However, this is an honorary doctorate. So can I just kind of break that down for a minute?
Please do.
An honorary doctorate is a non-academic degree. That means no one has done any academic work for the degree. Secondly, in this, you see Pagani receiving his degree. An honorary degree is something that a guest to that university, typically the guest speaker, the speaker of the commencement ceremonies. I'll give you an example. I graduated from Columbia International University when Johnny Erickson Tata received an honorary degree from that institution. It was the first one that was awarded in 75 years of that school's history.
Wow.
It was a very special moment. And now I'm very dear and close to the ministry of Johnny Erickson Tata because of our daughter being born with Down syndrome. And I've just been blessed incredibly by her ministry. But she received that degree, and she was made the address at the commencement.
Right.
That is a typical way an honorary degree is awarded. That this ceremony, 80 people received honorary degrees, honorary doctoral degrees,
What?
Doctor of Divinity. Secondly, typically
80 honorary degrees in one ceremony. Doctor of Pentecostal Theology. Pentecostal Theological University. Interesting.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Wouldn't be the same without some side of it.
a Doctor of Divinity is not awarded. It's called a Doctor of Letters. So Johnny Erickson Tata, when she received that degree, she received a Doctor of Letters. And I went to go confirm that on her Wikipedia page. She received a Doctor of Letters, not a Doctor of Divinity. It's a honorary degree. It is not an academic degree. So when Pagani says on his website here that he received a real accredited honorary, he wanted to make sure that that was a real accredited honorary doctorate in theology. I'm just sorry, but no one would say that. No one would claim, who's received an honorary doctorate, qualify that by saying I've received a real honorary, real accredited degree from an honor.
Okay, now you heard Mr. Richard Moore, and I think he knows far more than I do. But now to get to the clip, which is really about the video that I'm going to make behind this. I want you to wait. Hang out till you see what I'm going to present to you. How serious that what Mr. Pagani is actually doing in regards to what Richard is getting ready to bring up. And again, the links to Don's videos will be in the description. Mr. Moore is getting ready to discuss what you could liken claiming credentials that you have not worked for as actual credentials. In other words, you're trying to pass yourself off as having a doctorate in some type of theology when what you have received is actually an honorary degree. Oh, I got to go back to the beginning here. I'm about to blow it. So this one here, yeah, this is what we're going to use this as a foundation for what I'm going to share with you here in a minute.
Appealing. There's one last thing I wanted to ask you about, and you had mentioned this in our discussion about it, and I thought that this was a very interesting point. Coming back to our topic at hand of these questionable Bible college credentials and honorary doctorates, you had mentioned something that kind of similar to it that correlates of a stolen valor that you see in the military. And so I wanted to ask you about that and get your input as far as what you've been observing from that when you look into some of these things.
Right. So interesting. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with the idea of stolen valor. Stolen valor in the world, the military world, is a federal crime to fraudulently claim to be recipient of military decorations, medals, or rank belonging to the military in any way in order to obtain money, decorations, money, property, or other tangible benefits. So for instance, if I wanted to be a little more legitimate, I could go get my father's lieutenant colonel brass and put it on a military uniform I got from the Army Navy store and go try to get some kind of a job, say, because I was lieutenant colonel in the Army. That's stolen valor. It's illegal. It's the Act of 2013 is a.
Yeah, this is the topic that we're going to cover. How serious would a military service member consider stealing valor or stealing credentials that you haven't earned and that you don't deserve?
Federal crime to steal or pretend you have any kind of accolades or accommodations in the military. So a Bronze Star, if you found a Bronze Star in an Army Navy store, my dad has a Bronze Star. He earned it. If you wear that bronze, if I were to wear that Bronze Star, it would be stolen valor. And so this is what's happening in this movement. So Alexander Pagani has received an honorary doctorate to legitimize his ministry, to bolster him up, to buoy him up in his ministry. Although he poo-poos on education and seminary degrees and all the like, he has used this to buoy his reputation. And you can see it in the comments. People are just clapping and applauding. And whether or not he gets any kind of tangible benefit is not, really readily seen. But he certainly is working it hard to try to get some tangible benefit for himself.
Working it.
So it's not the same as stolen valor, but it is. It's stolen educational credential that you have not earned. And so in academia, this is very, very frowned upon to put the doctor in front of your name when you have not earned that degree. I can't put that DR in front of my name or PhD in front of my name until my dissertation has been approved and I defend it and I graduate. So any of these institutions as well. And I thought about this the other day too. Wait a minute. Now, if someone is going to like an online school or trying to send $500 to get a degree, that's actually mail fraud, mail and wire fraud. So I know a friend whose father was actually about to be convicted of mail fraud because he set up a company that did not really exist or was providing a spurious product, was not actually the product that was promised. And he was soliciting funds to people to send money, 1,000, 500, whatever, to his PO box that he set up with this company, this shell company. And they didn't provide a product that was real, or that if these organizations ask for money and then send a degree that is not accredited as they promise, maybe they promise an accreditation, but it's accredited by a organization that's not recognized by the Department of Education, then you have received a product that's not as promised or not as billed, so to speak. And that could be on the verge of mail fraud. Now, I know that's also a federal crime. And so I know organizations in the government are looking into spurious organizations like this who are sending out degree mills, that are really pumping them out. You send in $500 and they send you a degree. I don't think that's what's happening here necessarily with Pagani's degree, but he was asked to give an honorary doctoral degree to him because of the 2 books that he wrote, or it was 1, I think, only. Anyways.
He just came out with a second one about generational curses. Yeah. Right.
Generational curses, which was also condemned by the Assemblies of God as a deviant practice in 2006, I think. So generational curses are fraudulent as well. I mean, I'm willing to say that on camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is not
right. And what I didn't include in this segment was the fact that the second degree that he received, they allowed, and I want you to go look at these videos that Dawn and Richard have done so dutifully well. And again, they're not saying that these things aren't legitimate, but for one thing, on the second degree that he received, allegedly is a real degree, but it's still, I think, a real honorary degree. They received prior work that he's done, such as his first book, The Secrets of Deception. I mean, The Secrets of Deliverance, as work done towards his doctorate degree. And that's virtually unheard of, that you could use prior work. That's what Richard said. But we're going to move along to how, if you think about this spiritually, in what Richard brought up here in this segment, the use of stealing valor. We're going to move along to how serious do military members take stealing valor, or taking credentials for things you have not earned and that you should not have received. Let's check out stolen valor. Hey, we're going to take a look now at what is stolen valor to a military member.
You know, you don't have to be a military veteran to be bothered by the thought of someone posing as a Navy SEAL.
But when you're a retired member of that elite fighting group, aggravation can lead to motivation and spending the rest of your life outing the fakes.
Fox 5 I-Team reporter Randy Travis tells us about one man who's doing just that. Randy?
That's right, Russ. Unfortunately, retired Senior Chief Petty Officer Don Shipley spent nearly 20 years as a Navy SEAL. Around 2008, he says he found a new calling in retirement, catching people who pretend to be a SEAL. And he says our state...
Man, Senior Chief Don Shipley, much credit for the work you're doing, sir. I'm a Navy veteran myself. I was never a Navy SEAL. And God forbid anyone ever claims to be one who didn't actually earn their stripes. This is stolen valor.
Holds a dubious place of honor.
Georgia is the #1 state in this nation for imposters, SEAL imposters.
Why do we rate so high, or maybe so low?
I really don't have any idea.
All Don Shipley knows is Georgians seem to show up more than any other fakes from the thousands of tips that pour into his home office in Maryland.
Wow.
People like Bob McDaniel of Cobb County.
May the 244th anniversary of our birthday only be the beginning here in America.
McDaniel walked into the Semper Fi Bar and Grill in Woodstock last month to celebrate the Navy's birthday, wearing the uniform of a Navy Rear Admiral. But the lie...
Wow. Let's go back. Look at that. Look at all those decorations he got there.
Celebrate the Navy's birthday, wearing the uniform of a...
Chest just filled out with ribbons and medals and whatnot. Rear Admiral? Oh, this is sad.
The Navy Rear Admiral. But the lies don't end there.
One of the challenges for me, I teach some of the most elite warriors on the planet.
McDaniel teaches self-defense classes around Metro Atlanta and also claims to be Special Forces, a member of the Army's Delta Force, and a Navy SEAL. But the military told us there's no record of him being in the Navy. In fact, it shows he spent 6 years in the Marine Corps Reserve, never saw combat, and made it only to sergeant. You flew jets in the Vietnam War?
I did.
And you also became a Navy SEAL?
I did.
Why are you lying about your military record, Bob?
I would never lie about my military record.
Well, actually, I want to introduce you to a real SEAL. Behind you is a man named Don Shipley. He'd like to talk to you.
Don? Admiral?
And why do you think it's your duty to out them?
Man, I was so excited about this man's work. I mean, exposing false teachers is, not something you really want to have to do. Why should you have to do this? But why should the senior chief, retired Navy SEAL, why should he have to do it? He wants to do it because there's a code. There's a code in the military. And this man has stolen and broken that code. Some people who've never... and the reason why I connected this video to Sister Dawn Hill's video is because it popped up in my news feed arbitrarily. I didn't look for stolen valor. You know, and I had never heard of it before, but I didn't look this up. It just popped up my news feed, and something told me you got to put 2 and 2 together about how serious this is for the armed forces. But for the kingdom of God, it's virtually meaningless if you take credentials that you didn't earn. You make claims of things that you did that you didn't do.
They just do a terrible disservice to the military.
Shipley joined the Navy in 1978, eventually graduating from SEAL training in 1985. The elite unit, designed to fight on sea, air, or land, started during World War II. Wow. Shipley retired in 2003.
Everybody knows now what a Navy SEAL is. Not a lot of them know what a fake Navy SEAL is, but they're getting that word real quick.
He says after a fake Marine fooled him years ago, he decided to turn the tables. With the help of a private database of all SEAL graduates, Shipley says he and his wife Diane catch on average a dozen posers each day. He even started a YouTube channel where he posted his phone confrontations, creating the phony Navy SEAL of the week.
It's time once again for Inbox Phony SEALs of the week.
You know, and once I saw this, I have to admit, I've started binging on this content of exposing fake Navy SEALs. And there's channels out there that's exposing fake Navy SEALs and fake Green Berets. I can't believe people are doing this, especially at the level they're doing it.
Shipley's so popular now, with so many verification requests pouring in, he set up Video's Extreme SEAL Experience. He now charges $20 a search, free if you become a member of his website, where you get access to all his videos and read about the biggest scammers.
How many is this now?
I put it right at about 9,000.
He has exposed 9,000 fraudulent Navy SEALs. Thank you, sir. Thank you again.
Scammers.
How many is this now?
I put it right at about 9,000 that I've done, probably closer to 10.
He says 99% of those verifications turned out to be fakes.
They crave respect. They crave that more than anything, that you admire them.
But these days, instead of outing people over the phone, Shipley likes paying a personal visit. Let's go back to Bob, the pretend Navy Rear Admiral and phony SEAL.
Let's wrap this up. You don't even have a combat action ribbon on there. That's how people in the know can tell. Your presidential unit citation is upside down. You got a distinguished flying cross, and here you got three distinguished flying crosses, sir. This is stolen valor at its best.
No, I wouldn't steal any valor.
What the hell is that?
This first of all, well, I can't explain it right now.
A few days later, McDaniel called us to apologize for his actions, claiming he wore the Admiral's uniform to honor his late father that day, even though his father wasn't an Admiral either. McDaniel admitted all those other military claims also never happened. He could offer no explanation.
I feel totally deceived because up to this point, I respected the man.
What brought Shipley to Georgia was this picture posted on Facebook. An excited North Forsyth High School Navy Sea cadet beaming next to Bob McDaniel. So Shipley made contact with Reagan Hughes and delivered the truth in person.
I think it's an important lesson that you learn through this of how big and bad some of these clowns can be.
He also offered me to talk to one of his buddies about getting me into the Naval Academy. And I told lots of my ROTC friends about him, which now I gotta go back and tell them that he was fake.
But he gets to tell his buddies something even better. Shipley has offered to be a mentor.
How long do you see yourself doing this?
I don't know if I'll be able to stop. Every time I think I would, you know, because they drive me nuts. I mean, they have shaved years off of my life.
Okay, so the fake Navy SEALs drive Don as nuts as fake false teachers drive us, y'all. Understand the correlation, get the connection I made here? I feel you, sir.
These guys just listening to these endless lies.
We'll give him the left-handed salute. That's all he rates.
The old left-hand salute. Well, Shipley says he's even gotten calls from police during hostage standoffs to see whether the person involved really is a SEAL.
So even those guys are lying about their military record.
Yeah, fascinating. Wow. You say caught 9,000. That's hard to imagine. And you asked the question, why Georgia? What would make us so low on the totem pole in that sense?
Yeah, I really don't know, Russ. I mean, you know, we've done other investigations of people here in Georgia who have pretended to be something they're not,
right?
Military-wise. I guess you can theorize. I mean, we have a lot of military installations still, a lot of significant ones here in Georgia. Shipley doesn't know, but he does say this. He predicts this will not be the last time he comes to Georgia to out a phony SEAL.
Wow. That's shameful.
Well,
wow. Isn't that incredible? I hope you've enjoyed this episode entitled Stolen Valor. And I would like to ask you to maybe review your perspective of those who claim titles and positions in the kingdom, such as prophet and apostle, or if you might want to consider and examine the alleged academic credentials of people who say they've graduated from seminary or have achieved doctorate degrees in theology, and if those actually are authentic and credible, and if they've earned them and taken the stripes to achieve them. This is Brother Rob Wilson. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you care. Until we meet again in the next video, grace, peace, and love in Jesus' name. Amen.